Greetings, listener. I'm Chase Porter, and today we are going to be talking about comics from this last Wednesday, September 16th. This week was ginormous. Thor, he's not holding the hammer. Iron Man, he's in a fresh suit of armor. And Batman's 144-page 1000th issue. You are listening to the New Age Comics Podcast.
I see some ladies tonight that should be having my baby.
Welcome, guys. I hope you are having a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful week. We're back. We're at it again with the New Age Comics review of last week's comics. That's just what we do here. That's what it is. If you're new here, I very much appreciate the listening. If you would like to follow me on YouTube, you can. You can subscribe at New Age Comics. On Twitter, you can follow me at New Age Comics Pod. Not podcast, but pod. One day, we'll see if I can get a better handle. We are here checking out last week's books. This last week of comics was stupid big. Like, not fair big. Like, I had to take out a loan. And unlike the Human Torch, I was not denied my bank loan. If you get that reference, I love you. Please keep listening. But this last week was just so crazy big. It took me forever. If you follow me on Twitter, another little plug for my Twitter, you saw that I undertook something quite ambitious today. I woke up. I needed to get these comics reviewed. I had read one comic as of Saturday night. It is Sunday night. So I went home. I hung out with my girl for a little bit. I went home. I read 4 comics up until about 4 a.m. That was rough. I was struggling through that one. It might show in the review. And then I woke up today. I had, let me think. So I had 7 comics to read. Now, these weren't just any 7 comics. Amid these comics, we had a couple really big issues that, you know what, I won't get into right now. You will hear about them. But from about noon today, maybe 1 today when I woke up, I slept in late, till about now, and at this time of recording, it is almost 10 p.m. It is 9:47. I have been reading comics all day, doing these notes, just trying to get this podcast out today. I tweeted on my Twitter that I was going to try and prep, write, record, edit, export, and produce this whole podcast and have it out tonight. But here we are. It is not. I am very sorry. It will be out on Monday. If you are listening to this, I'm willing to bet that it is Monday. Maybe I shouldn't put it like that. If you're listening to this the day that this has came out, it will be Monday. It will be Monday, the 21st. And that is what it is. Life is hard. I'm sure y'all can understand that. I got school. I got a life. I got things going on. I got another job. I actually got 2 jobs, including this one, 3 jobs. No, I'm just playing. The podcast is not a job. But life is hard. Life takes time. Who'da thunk, right? Another thing, I'm doing all of these reviews for this episode a little quickly because, I got so many to get through and I want to keep this to a reasonable length. Real quick, before we hop into it, I got to do the ASMR slurp, okay? I got to tell y'all what we're drinking here in the studio. And today it is a new one. I am drinking a watermelon body armor. Body Armor Light, to be exact. Only 35 calories per bottle. 15 for 12 fluid ounce. And so we'll get that ASMR slurp in here. Nice. And yeah, I actually really like this stuff. It's got a lot of vitamins and stuff in it, which I think help me out when I'm feeling tired. And I'm trying to limit the coffee. I want to have, a functioning artery system by the time I'm 40. So trying to lay off the caffeine. I had 2 cups today. So anywho, let's talk about some comics. We have a ton. We have a metric shit ton. So let's get into it. Kicking off, Batman 99, written by James Tynion IV and drawn by Jorge Jimenez, colors by Tomei Mori. I'm talking about colorists now. That's a new thing for this pod. Joker War, it's raging on, and so does my heart on for this event. Last issue, we left off with Bats. He's whooping Punchline's ass, and, he's paging all the Bat family members. He just sent out a pager calling all Bat family. This issue, hey, guess what? The whole ass Bat family is here, and they're gearing up to take back the city from Joker, leading up to the Ultra Wild Super Mega Spectacular Anniversary $7 issue, Batman 100. I don't know if it's actually going to be $7, but I guarantee you there will be plenty of those little qualifying statements attached to the release. I thought this issue was absolutely amazing. One could say this was the penultimate issue of Joker War, right? It's the right before the last. And this whole event, it's just been super fucking fun. We get some awesome stuff in this book. A couple things I got to note here. Joker, he's doing a full Christopher Nolan Dark Knight. He's killing off his henchmen. Such a great nod. Such a little subtle nod. I actually watched a little bit of that movie this weekend. So that hit me pretty good. Joker also has this Hummer limousine, which is, it's just the most Joker thing there ever could be, right? Just completely unnecessary, completely ridiculous. But hey, he's got it. There's a scene later that has the whole Bat family atop of a roof. It was so mint. Just having every Bat family member there was just great. And I gotta say though, this issue, it was a little clickbaity, okay? Just a little bit. Because we walked into the issue thinking Dick is back. Nightwing, he's back. And honestly, we kind of just saw him suit up. I'm not mad. I am not mad at that. But hey, it is what it is. A little clickbaity. If you don't know, Nightwing, Dick Grayson, he has been Rick Grayson for a while now. And that's some whole Batman stuff that I don't even want to get into. I stopped reading the Nightwing. All right, that is my opinion. We'll leave it there. There is a final scene of the book with Harley that's just, oh my god, it's so great. Harley and Batman, they square off. Honestly, and I'm on Harley's side here, right? Because the whole gist of it is Harley is like, I'm gonna go whack the Joker. And Batman, of course, Batman. If you've ever read any single Batman comic ever, or even heard of him, he doesn't kill. And you know what? I'm low-key on Harley's side here, guys. Because why is he letting this man live? Like, Bruce is the most extreme case of anti-death penalty ever. I swear. The ending here, it involves Alfred. I won't say anymore. I will not say anymore. I will leave it unspoiled, but Alfred is involved. But what I will spoil, okay? What I will spoil here, Bat Joker? The Joker Man? Okay, here's another one I wrote. The one true Batman who laughs. If you've read this issue, you know what I'm talking about. The last page was great, and I am so hype for issue 100. I'm screaming my head off here. I really can't wait. Iron Man 1, drawn by Christopher Cantwell, drawn by Keifu, colors by Frank D. Armada. New Iron Man series, and I was very excited. For a little background, I did not read the last Iron Man run, which, it kind of culminated into that Iron Man 2020 thing, and, I think that's all neat, but I gave the first 2020 comic a read, and, it just didn't hook me. However, we are here in issue 1, and I was just really excited for this creative team, man. Christopher Cantwell's Doom run, it's fucking amazing. If that's like one of my standout runs from last year, and I think it's still going on. I think that might be a pre-quarantine book that just never came back around. And I've read a little bit of Keifu from Ninjak, and so, my hopes were high. And this, it was pretty good. It's a huge reset book, okay? So expect that. You can hop into this and not really know anything about the last run. We open up with this really cool scene of Stark. He liquidates about just a little $64 billion from Stark Unlimited, which I think was his business prospects in the last issue. And throughout this issue, he's driving cool cars. He's losing street races, of course. He's tweeting tweets. Hey, I got that in common with the guy. One thing that's very prevalent, I have to point out in Cantwell's writing, is his side characters, guys. He is the side character king. Case in point, Hellcat in this issue. She's amazing. She shows up to this little shindig that Tony throws near the end of the night, one night. And I just loved her presence in this comic. She was so quirky, so funny, and kind of just balanced Tony out perfectly. The new suit that he has in this issue is super dope. It's vintage as fuck. Very cool. Mike, I got a question though. Is it new? Or is this just an old suit? You know? But hey, I have to point out it's got the eye holes, the classic eye holes. Before the movies, before anything else, Stark, his eyes were exposed, completely exposed. He couldn't breathe underwater with that thing. He'd flood his suit. But the eye holes, they're back, baby. We also got a new villain who he thinks he's a god, or more so he thinks God is a verb, which, hey, that was interesting. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go check the last panel of this issue. It was so edgy, but I loved it. It had me laughing. And I guess he wants to catch lightning in a bottle. Literally, he literally wants to do that. He approaches Stark about this at his party. And I actually thought this was kind of cool. If you want to, you can kind of think about that as a bit of a double entendre from Cantwell's perspective when it comes to just kind of creating new villains. I think that really is kind of catching a lightning bolt in a bottle, because it's difficult and it requires some luck, honestly. This issue, it didn't rock my socks off or anything, but in terms of a reboot, I'm hooked enough. I am here for issue 2. Issue 2 is in my pull list, and I can trust Cantwell a little bit more. He has clearly shown some proficiency in writing armored guys. That's all I gotta say. And I think I'm about to do like Tony, and I'm about to delete my Twitter just like him. Bloodshot 8, written by Tim Seeley, drawn by Pedro Andreu, colors by Andrew Dahlhaus. It has been a long time coming for this book. Bloodshot 7, that was a pre-quarantine book, my guys. That dropped in March. In March. Can you believe that? It's been 6 months since we've had an issue of this comic. Bloodshot 7 was actually probably one of those last books we got before Corona done fucked up the whole game. We left off, and it was a little hard for me to remember, but we left off with Bloodshot. He's linking up with this private spy organization, right? And he's freed this girl who's a scion, and she can manipulate bodies. That's her power. And there's something about him releasing like a bunch of bioweapon monster soldiers into the wild. It's all a little spotty, you know, it's been 6 months, but here we are with the follow-up. And gotta say, we get some really awesome backstory here for the leader of the Burned. His name is Nyx. And I guess we learned that he actually used to fuck with MI6, which, hey, we get some Neville action as well. And honestly, his origin is also pretty fucked up. I won't lie. And so I thought that was really cool. I'm a huge Ninjak fan, and so that was just like perfect for me. That was exactly what I needed. After that, we get a little bit of enhanced soldier guys. They're trying to kill some government officials, you know, like you do. And Bloodshot, he puts a fucking end to all of that with a little help from the guy, Exo Manowar, which was a great little cameo. And, you know, I usually rail on cameo issues, but in this instance, I thought it was cool. Valiant, hey, it's a small connected universe, so those cameos are pretty fun. I also have to say this girl that Bloodshot's hanging out with, I think her name is Eidolon? She wants to fuck Exo. She wants to pipe. She makes that very apparent when they meet. And this ending, it kind of confused me a little bit, I won't lie. Nyx is like, I guess just the way the art and the story kind of all laced together, I just kind of couldn't tell what was happening. Apparently Nyx he's like mind controlling or pain controlling Bloodshot from afar or something, or not so far. I don't know. I really can't say. I really liked this issue. However, I am starting to feel kind of like, where is this series going? You know, like, it seems like I like the whole they're bouncing back between the Burned and Grail's organization, which I think is Project Rising Spirit. I'm not 100% sure. It seems like, you know, it's not making much sense anymore why he's bouncing back and forth. I like the idea of Bloodshot kind of being sick of being used, and he wants to just do good now. I like that. But, you know, he's kind of just getting jerked around a little bit. And so as a reader, I'm kind of anticipating it each time. And in general, I kind of think I just want to see a little more spontaneity with this series. Batman's Grave issue 10, written by Warren Ellis, drawn by Brian Hitch, and colors by Alex Sinclair. This is another podcast first, actually, just like the last one, Bloodshot. This is the first time I'm talking about this book on the show. I've been keeping up with this series since it actually dropped, just like the Bloodshot. And hey, I've been really digging Batman's Grave. If you've been reading it so far, you know that it's been a huge detective's tale for Bruce. He's uncovering more and more information about this group called Scorn, and each issue usually has some big silent portion, that's just action. And hey, it's pretty fun. I gotta say, it's pretty fun. The only gripe I have is it's a little hard to remember the events issue to issue, just because with these big silent portions, they're usually jamming all the story into a couple pages here, which, I don't know, it's just a little difficult to keep track of. This issue, Gotham has Scorn soldiers or mercenaries. They're marching through the streets, so we're getting bat tanks, we're getting bat gliders, we're getting Batman kicking some ass, of course. Pretty fun. This issue probably has, I gotta say this, guys, probably has my favorite silent scene sequence so far. This cannibal guy, he breaks into the Wayne Manor, and he's trying to kill Bruce, and Alfred finds him, okay? Can you guess what Alfred does? Well, he shoots him in the fucking face like 5 times. And Bruce, I love this. He comes home, and he's like, so you fucking killed him? And, they're plastic bullets, okay? But it was still hilarious. Just that scene of this dude, he gives this whole villain monologue, he lunges at Alfred, and then you turn the page, and he's just laid out, and Alfred's got this, I don't know, some old gun, and he just loads like 5 or 6 rounds into him. It was just hilarious. Especially Alfred telling Bruce, he'd probably never find all the guns that he has stored away in the manor. Just so funny. I think Alfred has been the absolute best running thing throughout this series. I think the way Ellis has interpreted Alfred is just so funny. And it's just, it's just what we need now that Alfred has gone out of the canon. The ending here is kind of a perfect example of what I mean, though, by it's hard to remember the previous issues a little bit. In this instance, it's kind of because I don't really know what the significance of the whole, good time killer committing suicide by cop. I don't even know what's going on there. But, all that being said, before I was doing the pod, I was actually going to save this series for a full reread. And honestly, that might still be in order, but, this is going to make a wonderful trade. Batman's Grave will be a very, very good trade. Flying into the next issue, we got X-Men issue 12, written by Jonathan Hickman, drawn by Lanil Francis Yu, colors by Sunny Go. 1 year deep. We are 1 year into the Hickman's X-Men, and, it's been an absolute trip. Last issue, we had some super awesome Empire Magneto badassery, and now we're getting some deeper Summoner shit, who, he's been a character that's kind of been teased since issue 1, I'm pretty sure. And we don't just get some Summoner shit, we get some Apocalypse shit too. And, apparently he's the Summoner's grandpappy, so that kind of comes out in here. And we get pretty much the story of Arakko, which I think is it was the full island, the full island mass before there was this, I guess, I don't know how much of this is mythical and real. It's kind of hard to tell, but this group or army or something, they cleave the island in half, and that's how we get Krakoa and Okara. And we get some, Apocalypse stories about how they need his help, I guess. And, honestly, this issue was dope. It definitely felt more of like a bridge issue for X of Swords. But, honestly, I'm not mad at that. And I kind of wonder if this little kind of story the issue 12 told was supposed to be kind of the whole lead up to X of Swords. I have a pretty strong hunch. Have you seen the cover for X of Swords creation number 1? Because it pretty much features all of the characters that are in this issue, or at least shows them very briefly. And they all seem to be present here in one way or another. I think it's going to be big X of Swords stuff. I'm a bit of a slut for Apocalypse, so I was walking into this issue pretty happy about that. But this issue, it had some dope moments for me, especially that panel of the blood dripping off of his face. God damn your art is amazing, I have to say. And, it's so sad to be hearing that this is actually his last issue. I think we're going to get new art from here on out. And thinking about it, we're getting a lot of villain issues lately. A lot of villain focus. Like we had the Magneto issue. This is sort of a Summoner Apocalypse type issue. And I'm kind of starting to work into some high hopes for this series, for this event, X of Swords that's coming out. And for those that listen to the bonus ep, you know I'm going to be directing all of my X-Men commentary to Ian now, even though he probably wasn't listening because he said he didn't want X-Men spoilers. Hey, that's commendable, but X of Swords looks dope, and I am excited. Seven Secrets, number 2, written by Tom Taylor and drawn by Danielle Di Nuculio, colors by Walter Biamonte. So I picked up this first issue for this series just off of the recommendation of Comic Book Club, actually, which is another comic podcast, and because they were ranting and raving about it, and it seemed right up my alley. And I gotta say, it was. So here we are with issue 2. Last issue, it set up, the whole gist of the world that Taylor is building. There are these secrets, 7 to be exact, and people are assigned to guard them with their lives, of course, all of that. The last issue, we met 2 characters who, we found their love being the biggest secret of all. Not even trying to make that sound corny. It's really true. And it was actually a really good issue. They have this child who he's then kind of given to the group, and his name is Casper. He's kind of narrating this whole thing. Oh, I also forgot there's this villainous ass dude who he's hunting all of these secrets, if you couldn't guess. I mean, that's just kind of the slam dunk plot line here. This issue, we followed that child, actually. Not that those spoilers, but the couple from the first issue, something pretty tragic happens to them. But in this issue, it's sort of like the origin story of the kid leading up to that tragic moment. We see Casper, he grows up, he trains under this order and learns how to fight, steal, be all sneaky-like, and all of that good spy, assassin, warrior type shit. This issue, honestly, I thought it was great. Taylor, he's giving us emotional appeal. It's like so hard for these characters, and I am here for it. I also love that there is an amount of foreshadowing that's definitely going on here. Casper is narrating, like, presumably from the future, and he said stuff like, quote, before the first secret was unleashed, or before the fall, or, quote, this one's crazy, quote, I don't make it to the end. Like, all right, shit. He's gonna die, I guess. Secrets are coming out. We're all gonna be sorry. Fuck, man. I guess we're in for a ride that is this series. The art is really great. It's super fun and it has great action. I specifically wanted to note the coloring here, though. The colors are just so bright and vibrant, which, it's not something that I exactly would expect from a series with this kind of description, something that you think would just be like darkness, blah, and Batman type shit. And, I have to give some love to the world building that Taylor is doing here. I'm just super enthralled in, what this order is and what their secrets are. Like, this is what will keep me reading, because I want to know this shit. I have to know. And hey, you should too. Conan Battle for the Serpent Crown, issue 5, written by Saladin Ahmed, drawn by Luke Ross, colors by Nolan Woodward. Dang, this is another podcast first here. Conan, he is chasing the Serpent Crown. This series has been a part of an interesting publication timeline, I gotta say. Marvel, they nabbed up Conan, of course. Maybe you all heard of that. And they did 2 series within, like, the Conan-verse, which, were pretty good. It was just Conan the Barbarian and Savage Sword of Conan. And then he was sort of canonized in Avengers No Road Home, issue 5. Now he can be seen in this series and Savage Avengers. This series has been a little lackluster for me. Conan, he's just been kind of wandering the Marvel U in each issue, and it's been centered in a little bit, in my opinion. Each issue has kind of just been centered around a cameo. And yes, there is this overarching story about Mephisto. He's trying to escape his Las Vegas prison, and there's a serpent crown and serpent scepter, and they're together again, and I guess this means some bad shit. And Conan, he's met this girl named Nyla, and now they're captured. This issue, and in general, this series, was kind of just okay. Unfortunately, just okay. I feel like it was definitely written for the status quo ending in mind, which, is kind of just a pet peeve of mine, as y'all might know from my Empire reviews. They were captured, and they had their little squabble for the Serpent Crown thing. And this dude named Champion, he went crazy with power, and then Conan, he slammed the crown onto his head, and it blew up or something. I'm not really sure, but there was a big explosion. And they walked off to a bar, they got litty titty, and then boom, status quo was achieved. And this series wasn't ass or anything, but it was a fun read. Watching Conan deal with Black Cat and Namor and Black Panther, it was all very fun. But I think cameo-centered issues usually lend themselves a bit to status quoism, which is just kind of a red flag for me. I feel like writers aren't very... when it comes to this character's gonna fly through onto the panel at some point, and then they're gonna yuck around with that character, and then by the end of that issue they're gonna leave. I don't know. It's just, it kind of lends itself to nothing super eventful happening because the cameo is gonna leave at the end. All in all, it was a decent ride for me, but unfortunately, it's not something I would exactly recommend to people who wanted to read the new Conan stuff.
7.
Thor issue 7, written by Donny Cates, drawn by Aaron Kuder. Colors, they're by Matt Wilson. The Donald Cates' Thor run. It's been A1, Renegade, TikTok dance, whatever the kids are saying these days. This run, it has been fucking amazing. We just left the Black Winter stuff, and now we're doing a new arc. Maybe? Yes, it's a 2-part arc. First of all, this cover, that's one thing I gotta point out. The cover for this issue is fucking amazing. If you're watching on YouTube, that wonderful, beautiful cover is by Oliver Coipel, and, he's just a goddamn beast, man. Second of all, this comic was also spectacular. Thor, he's getting things back in order after the last arc. He's kind of noticed something is broken with Mjolnir. That's been a big thing for the Cates' Thor arc. And so he took his hammer and he sent it back to Earth. He sent it to Braxton, Oklahoma, to be specific, to test a little theory that I guess he thinks he's becoming unworthy, while everybody else is sort of picking up the hammer with ease. And oh my god, this series, it just doesn't disappoint in any way. Cates, he's taking Thor with strides. I was honestly thinking Cates might have a hard time following up Jason Aaron's Thor run, which was super epic. And in particular, kind of thinking, how would Cates set himself apart? There is no need to worry. He has been just killing this series issue by issue. I also got to say that I am in love with Aaron Kuder's art on the other hand. Cates is doing a great job, but Aaron Kuder's art is really killing it for me. Seriously, it's so great. Everything Kuder does. I remember I first picked up his all-new Guardians series forever ago, and I just fell head over heels for it. His Ghost Rider stuff, I was so happy to hear that he was doing Ghost Rider stuff. His art is just so perfect for that. And now this, I just don't know what it is, man. He has just such amazing detail, and he has this softness to his art at the very same time. And I think, you know what I think it is? I think it's the way he draws faces. That's really how it gets me. He just has so much emotion in all of his faces here. The Beta Ray Bill stuff in this issue was, again, spectacular. Beta Ray Bill, he's just so dope, and Cates is just handling him so perfectly. I've loved all the moments in this comic so far. I think Thor making Horse Thor his second in command is just absolutely great because, that's going to mean more Horse Thor. This issue also was actually pretty funny. Thor and Sif, they had some good quips going back and forth. Thor, he's pranking Tony by putting his phone number on the hammer when he sent it down. It's all just super funny. Okay, speaking of, I thought this might be something fun to do on the podcast. So apparently it's a real number. The number that they kind of engrave on the hammer is a real number, and I guess you can actually call it. So, hey, I thought I would actually do it here on the pod. So let me just dial this real quick. Can I get the little beeps in there? Oh, there we go.
Yes, this is Iron Man. However, due to some big blonde jerk, I no longer use this number. But hey, nice try anyway. For all things Tony Stark, please visit www.tonystarkironman.com and try and stay safe out there, yeah? I'm busy enough as it is.
That was perfect, okay? I hope that picked up all of it. But that was amazing. I'm going to have to go to that website later. Moving to probably the biggest comic book I have ever read in my entire life. The biggest single issue of one comic, Detective Comics 1027. So this is an anthology book, so it's got lots of writers, lots of artists, lots of colorists, and Jesus Christ, man, this book was gargantuan. 144 pages, no ads, all killer, no filler, 12 creative teams, fucking A. Instead of talking about each, individual little mini here and drowning about a half an hour just describing everything, I figured I would kind of just go through my faves and go through some of the really notable ones. All of these anthology books, they usually have some good stories, have some meh stories. But honestly, guys, this one right here, it might be the best anthology type book that DC has put out so far. I'm not capping at all. And, that's saying a lot. To recap, we had Action Comics with Superman, we had Detective Comics 1000 with Batman, then we got a Catwoman, a Robin, we got a Joker, which I read all of those. And then I think we had some few that I didn't end up getting. I think it was Wonder Woman, there was a Green Lantern, and I think the Flash. I think those are all the ones we've gotten so far. And before this one, I think it was either Robin or Superman that was probably my favorite. But now, I think it's Detectives. I think it's Detectives 1027 here. There are just a lot of really good stories in here. I can only think of maybe one or two that were just like okay. Like none of the stories here were lacking huge. They're all pretty fun and also told pretty unique stories. Some notable writers that we got here, we got Brian Bendis, we got Grant Morrison, Tom King, and Scott Snyder come on, Greg Rucka, Peter J. Tomasi, and many more. That's only about half of them. And this book, it opens up with Tomasi, and I think it was just a perfect way. It's just Batman, he's kind of describing and thinking about his rogue gallery. And this was just a perfect way to kick off the book, in my opinion. It gave like a splash page to every villain. And I liked how they just knocked that kind of story out right in the beginning there. Bendis, he had an amazing story. It was so Bendis. The whole Bat family was there. They're all talking, they're all bickering, they're all solving crime. I really liked Greg Rucka's story, which went into the life of like a rookie at the GCPD. And, I think that was perfect given his history writing Gotham Central. Schneider came in with this like humongous, crazy, mind-blowing story as usual. Batman, he pretty much figures out how to save the planet after the sun explodes. And what else could you expect there? I think at the end of the day, though, I have a three-way tie. See, that's how good this one is. If you have a three-way tie of your favorite stories, that's pretty good. And it's between Grant Morrison's story, Matt Fraction's story, and Mariko Tamaki's story, I think. So to touch on all of those a little bit, Grant Morrison, which one his one is very funnily titled Detective 26, right? Very clever. I see what you did there. And this is actually a pretty funny story. It's about this other detective that was around before Batman, right? He gears up, he does this whole epic detective superhero, like build up scene, and then he's going to fight somebody, and Batman just breaks through the window. He straight up kills this one guy. He throws him into a vat of acid, and the dude literally quits right there. That's how that story ends. It just had me rolling. It was so funny. Not what I expected from Grant Morrison either. Matt Fraction's story, it was actually really, really good. It's about, Batman, since his war on crime kind of started, so we go all the way to year one here. I guess Joker, he's been giving him birthday presents every single month this whole time. And it's usually in the form of, something super fucked up, right? And it's kind of become this entire war between the two. And this is illustrated by Chip Zdarsky, actually. And so to me, this story was one of those classic like yin and yang comparisons between Batman and Joker, where it was just like, you can't have one without the other. And that was really good. And I really liked how Matt Fraction handled that. And this last story of the book, Tamaki and Dan Mora, they absolutely killed this story. And, I think I'm pretty much going to be drooling over anything that Dan Mora does. But here we are, and we get some tying into the current timeline. It opens up with, I guess it's Joker War Day 3. And by the end, they tell us to be continued in Detective Comics. So, hey, are we going to get some Dan Mora in Detective Comics? I would shit a brick. Batman, he is trying to solve, something involving Wayne Enterprises and the Joker, and he ends up being essentially framed for the death of this police officer. And it ends with him jotting this all down in his black casebook, and the police officer's partner pretty much vowing to bring justice to him. God, man, this story was so fun. I just think Dan Mora, I think he should draw every single comic just on the rack, I think we should just all wait on Dan Mora's drawing schedule, and comics would probably be better. Let's just say that. I don't know what else to say. I think I would be here all day. What I'll leave you with is, if you are going to pick up any of these anthology books, this is the one. 1,000 issues of Batman, and hey, here's to 1,000 more. Giant-Sized X-Men Storm, Issue 1, written by Jonathan Hickman, drawn by Russell Dauterman, and colors by Matthew Wilson. This might be actually the first giant-sized one-shot discussion I've had on the pod as well. Damn, this is just such an eventful week for the podcast. Like what? These X-Men one-shots. We had, I did Thor already. Conan for the first time. Seven Secrets for the first time. I did X-Men. Batman's Grave for the first time. Bloodshot for the first time. Of course, that new Iron Man. And I have another newbie down the line. So big week. We're covering all the ground here at New Age Comics with this podcast. And okay, so I digress. These giant-sized issue one-shots, they've been really cool. It's essentially Hickman saying, hey, I want to write one-shots for all my favorite X-Men characters. And hey, I am here for that. Don't get me wrong. His first one was Emma Frost and Jean Grey, and it set up kind of the point of this issue. It set up something with Storm where she had this like techno-organic virus, and it was infecting her, and it's a problem. Here we have the follow-up, and shit was dope. And actually, it's funny. We did get a couple more touches on this story, the Storm story. Say that 5 times fast. During the Phantom X giant-sized one-shot, which I think was my favorite so far. And essentially, this issue is the wrap-up of that side plot storyline. So we get Storm, Cypher, Monet, and Phantom X, and then this AIM dude, this like AIM henchman named Ned. They all infiltrate Phantom X's birthplace, which is this thing called the World, and they do some sci-fi, wishy-washy, hucky-cucky thingies, and they're trying to help Storm out, right? I thought this issue was really fun, and a really cool way to kind of tell this overarching story just through a series of one-shots. But now, it makes me wonder, is this the last giant-sized one-shot that we'll see? Like, now that the Storm storyline is over, are we kind of done with the giant-sized? I look through the previews every month, and I can't particularly remember seeing another one advertised, but I guess I don't remember there not being one, so I guess we'll have to see. Overall, I had a really good time with this like subplot storyline with Storm. The Phantom X one, like I said, was definitely my favorite, and the Phantom X stuff in this issue was really awesome. I hope they touch on that more in the future. I guess he'll be, it puts him in a new status quo. I guess he's going to be staying in the World now. And, I'm curious, like, what's going on with that? Can we get a Phantom X solo series, Hickman, please? And, I also got to say, are they going to follow up on that cliffhanger there at the end? You guys know I like the cliffhangers, and it's pretty much Cypher. He is talking to something that no one thought could talk, and yeah, he's talking to it. So, Hickman, what the fuck? Immortal Hulk, Issue 0, written by Al Ewing, Bill Montolo, Peter David, and drawn by Mattia De Luis, Mike Mignola, and Adam Kubert. Excuse my butchering of any of those names there. But hey, it's the Immortal Hulk section of the pod. These last 2 comics I'm going to be talking about, they're going to be the new Immortal Hulk issues. And here we have a 0 issue. And this isn't your normal 0 issue. This is actually in similar fashion to the Savage Avengers 0 issue that dropped a while back. And pretty much what it does is it gives us old reprints of classic but relevant stories. And they lace it with some new scenes, with new art that kind of tie things together and tell you why it's relevant, that they're literally representing you with old comics. Here we follow Dr. Brian Banner, which is Bruce's dad. And wow, this issue is wild. It basically tells like 3 stories total. We open up and Brian, he's in a cemetery at his wife Rebecca's grave. He finds this glowing like mobile and then it shoots us right into an old comic, Incredible Hulk 312, which for reference, they did Hulk 750 like recently here. So pretty old. And funny enough, this was actually a Secret Wars 2 tie-in, which if you listen to the podcast I did with my friends, you would know that Ian hated this event. But here, we get the Brian Banner story, right? Of how he was an abusive father and he kind of always resented Bruce for being this monster. This issue isn't very bells and whistles, definitely, but I think it's foundational reading for sure. This is stuff that I think I was just happy to read and know and understand fully this time, But then after a bit of a modern art bridge where Brian, he meets this gravekeeper, we are thrown into a Peter David, Adam Kubert flashback Hulk one-shot, which features Stan the Man Lee, actually. He's telling Hulk, kind of in this purgatory fashion, the life story of his father. And this leads to a revelation that Bruce killed his father at the cemetery in a moment that was kind of actually depicted in the last issue, 312. Both comics, they were amazing. And, it's quite old news and a very cold take, but they were really good. And then afterwards, we snap back to real time, and this gravekeeper that Brian is talking to, he's actually the leader. And this gives us the backstory, this is how I interpret it. This Immortal Hulk series definitely delves into really confusing stuff sometimes. But this is how I interpreted it. It gives us the backstory of Bruce's father being in hell, like way back in that Hulk's in Hell arc, because I think it shows us a scene from that arc. I'm pretty sure. Honestly, it feels kind of difficult for me to try and review this issue because it is like a, just kind of old backstory classics for 90% of it. However, this is certainly a very unique reading experience, and I really like actually how Marvel is doing these 0 issues. It feels like Marvel is they're kind of forcing us to do a little bit of backlog reading, Like, hey, you read Immortal Hulk? Well, here's a 0 issue, all right? Now you got to read that shit. If you want to be up on the Immortal Hulk shit. And then they just kind of plug some of their old stories in there. It's very smart, and I'm kind of digging it. And then when they add bits throughout the comic, it really makes it feel like a unique kind of standalone type issue. It's not like you could just go read 312 and this like flashback issue and be good. Like, no, you got to read this thing because it touches on all of this leader, Brian Banner type stuff, and it ties it directly into the Immortal Hulk run. So I think that's something that we can all get behind and love here. Last but not least, Immortal Hulk issue 37. Written by Al Ewing, drawn by Joe Bennett, and colors by Paul Mounts. This is actually another podcast first. I had to skim back through my old notes to see if I had reviewed issue 36, and I guess I hadn't. Immortal Hulk, it's just been, that record-breaking, face-melting, gut-busting awesomeness. And last time we left off, Hulk, he was doing this kind of, he showed up to do this sort of publicity stunt now because he's this like icon. He's become sort of famous as like an anti-establishment figure. And he kind of loses control of his anger. He goes Hulk mode. And so then, Gamma Flight is there and they're there to put his ass in check. Plus, the leader, he's lurking and he's up to no good. This issue, it feels like the leader's plans are actually coming to fruition here. We see the leader, he's screwing around with this green door place, and he's pulling all the strings, of course. What's the word? He's Geppetto, right? He's pulling the strings, he's the puppet master. He's messing with all the characters. He's got Rick under some kind of control. He like literally melts Leonard's face off. So, when I say face melting, I am speaking literally here. And then Crusher Creel, he's now like Gamma Man, right? He can absorb any kind of gamma powers. And he's fucking up Hulk totally. And this issue, it was just another amazing installment of this series, man. If you really want a series that seldom disappoints, then this is one that you have to be reading month by month. The writing, it's just so dark and so insane. Not to mention the art here, which is totally a show stealer, I have to say. Joe Bennett's art, it's so horrific and so amazing. It seriously just gives me chills. It just literally sends chills through every orifice in my body. We're also getting an expansion of this like gamma green door stuff, because now we see the red door. Like, homest to the fuck? Ewing, what are you doing? What are you fucking with now? In last page, spoiler warning, we see the leader tricked out in the Planet Hulk fit. Like, huh? What's going on here? Like, body armor and everything. Seriously, I am certainly intrigued. My eyebrows, they are certainly raised, and Immortal Hulk 38 is certainly in my poll. And that is all I have for you guys today. Man, I love doing this pod and everything, but I have to say, I do not want every episode to go like it did today. Oh, it was draining. I definitely need to plan a little better. This is a little, I'll peel the curtain back for you guys, right? This is a little inside scenes. I did not prepare well for today. Like I had said in the beginning of the episode, I literally only had one comic read as of last night. And, this was a huge week. Like I said, this was a gargantuan week. So I had 12 comics to read, and it doesn't help that Detective Comics was essentially like 5 comics, and that Immortal Hulk 0 was like 2 and some change. So none of that was very helpful in expediting the release of this podcast. So apologies. I really would like to have this episode of the weekly reviews out on Saturdays, at least Sundays, basically on the weekend. But unfortunately, it's going to have to come out tomorrow. I'm going to have to edit all of this up tomorrow while I'm at work. It's a whole thing. Do not worry. I'm not slacking off on my work, except for the fact that I am slacking off on my homework. As another little personal tidbit here, I'm usually pretty good about doing my homework, right? Like, I'm fairly dedicated. The thing usually was that I wouldn't do anything unless I had homework to do. But I'm realizing that was more so just a dedication thing, not exactly a love for doing homework, because now that I'm doing this podcast, I'm realizing that, man, I would much rather just work on this all day. Because that's usually what I end up doing. Like, I have literally forgot about so many homework assignments this semester already. Just literally blanking on them because my mind is elsewhere. So that's a bit of a personal struggle here. That maybe will, get remedied at one point if I'm not in school, or if I guess not if, but hopefully when I graduate, I will not have to deal with that anymore. But man, today was draining. Like, literally, I read comics for probably like 9 hours and then came over here and talked about them all. I apologize if the energy and all of that seemed low today, because my brain is kind of mush right now. I hope in future weeks I have smaller comic polls that aren't killing me here. And, I might have to be a little more, judicious about what comics actually make the poll. Because I honestly have to say 12 comics is probably too much. Maybe thinking about it, it might just be the fact that Detectives and Hulk 0 were like 7 comics. Those 2 comics equated to 7 right there. So it really feels like I've read like 20 comics in the last 40 hours. But I digress. I'm still having a blast, obviously, doing all of this pod stuff. I love talking about the new comics. I am super grateful for everybody that is listening. If you made it this far, thank you so much. It means the world to me. Seriously. If you are listening to me on YouTube, please go ahead and subscribe. I am doing these every week. I have bonus content that I'm working on and it's coming out. It means a lot to me if you're sticking around for the ride. Go ahead, give the video a like. Feel free to comment. I would really like to hear what you guys think about some of the issues I talked about here. Give me your reviews. Give me your quick reviews. I mean, hey, if you want to go long, feel free. Write me a whole essay in the comments there. But other than that, it's a total blast doing this show, guys. And to get into a little more inside baseball here before I skedaddle up out of here, this episode definitely will be on the longer end, if that wasn't clear. But to go a little further, as you guys know, I'm pretty much doing this on YouTube and SoundCloud right now. SoundCloud, unfortunately, is not very fruitful. Not totally fruitful, and that's okay. Honestly, SoundCloud is not the place to go for podcast listening, I have to say. That is why I'm going to be reallocating some of the money that I pay for SoundCloud Pro into an RSS feed. And if you know what that is, that means I'm going to be on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts and the whole nine. I will be on any podcast app. You name it, I'll be on it. You bet your ass I will. So that's very exciting. I'm going to be looking into that this week down the line after I kind of, holy shit, get my shit back together, because seriously, I'm going to go home here and pass the fuck out. I work a radio shift. I do a morning show with my man Dwayne, and yeah, I'm going to be up at 6 a.m. So, you know, I got about 6 hours here till I got to be at the show. So I digress. Big things coming down the pod this coming week. Feel free to check me out on some of those apps once they go up. I'm sure I'll be tweeting about it. Last little plug here. If you want to, please follow me on Twitter at New Age Comics Pod. And that's about it, guys. I had a total blast this week, regardless of all of the tiredness I was feeling. Hopefully next week is a little more chill for me. Anyways, love you guys. I hope you're having a wonderful week and you continue to have one. And I will see you in the comic podcast world next week. I don't know really what I'm saying. See, this is what I'm saying, guys. My brain is mush at this point. So I'm just going to get out of here. See you guys. Have a good week. Goodbye.